Now to the arrest of two American teens in Rome accused in a police officer's murder. Italian authorities say Finnegan Elder and Gabriel Hayorth, both from San Francisco, fatally stabbed a police officer after an alleged drug deal gone wrong. They also say they have a confession with a knife reportedly found hidden inside their hotel room.
Tonight, these two Americans are behind bars at Rome's Regina Coeli prison. Finnegan Lee Elder and Gabriel Christian Natale Hjorth, tourists from San Francisco, seen here reportedly moments after being detained in their hotel room. Police say the two have confessed to being involved in a violent altercation that resulted in the death of an Italian police officer. The policeman stabbed during a scuffle at 3 a.m. Friday with two people suspected of stealing a backpack from another man and then trying to ransom it back.
Thousands of Romanians took to the streets of the capital Bucharest on Saturday to protest at the police handling of a case in which a 15-year-old girl was raped and murdered. The victim called the European emergency number 112 3 times for help on July 25th, but it took the police 19 hours to locate her. The case has prompted the Prime Minister to consider increasing penalties for such crimes. I'm analysing the possibility of calling a referendum to ask Romanians if we should have drastically harsher penalties for murder, rape and paedophilia. Protesters gathered outside the house of a 65-year-old man arrested over the murder. He's suspected of having picked the victim up in his car as she was hitchhiking from a nearby village to Caracal in the south of the country. But their anger is not just against the alleged perpetrator, but also the police. One protester carried a banner saying, "Your carelessness kills."
Over 600 people at a Moscow street protest were arrested by the police on Saturday. The authorities had banned the protest, which was against the exclusion of opposition candidates in local elections, but thousands defiantly took to the streets. Even so, protests on this scale don't present a major challenge to President Vladimir Putin's government. Many activists and younger people now seem unafraid to challenge the government on the streets. Many chanted "Russia without Putin" and "Putin resign." Our correspondent says the protesters are chanting "Give us our elections back" and that they've been blocked from converging on City Hall. One local politician from the town of Naro-Fominsk near Moscow said he went on the protest to see whether human rights would be respected. The police started to crush us, knocked over several people and kicked us in the legs.
Two South Koreans and 15 Russians who are being held in North Korea returned to South Korea on Sunday afternoon. They'd been detained after their fishing ship in July broke down and drifted into North Korean waters. Despite continued requests through the contact office to repatriate the South Koreans, Seoul says it was not informed by the North over their return. Our Oh Jung-hee reports.
After 11 days of detention in North Korea, 2 South Koreans and 15 Russians safely returned to South Korea's eastern port city of Sokcho on Sunday afternoon. They were caught by the North in mid-July as their fishing ship Shanghai Lin broke down and accidentally drifted into North Korean waters without giving prior notification to the regime. 15 Russian crew members and 2 South Korean fishing supervisors were aboard the ship. The ship left from North Korea's eastern port city of Wonsan on Saturday evening following its release.
A scene all too familiar for the people of northwest Syria. Homes reduced to rubble. Families ripped apart.
Arab League. United Nations, there are no armed people, no headquarters, only unarmed civilians, unarmed people.
The Syrian government, backed by its Russian ally, launched an offensive to capture Idlib in late April. Since then, markets, schools, hospitals have all come under attack. Children have not been spared. More than 200 were killed in just 3 months. More than 800 civilians have now died.
Assad is targeting us because he wants us to give up and become displaced. But where can we go? There is nowhere to go. We're forced to remain here, despite the bombing.
In Tulsa tonight, a string of robberies taking a potentially deadly turn when a victim's neighbor came face to face with one of the suspects and opened fire. Now that resident is under arrest. ABC's Zachary Keish has the details.
A Tulsa neighborhood tonight still shaken from armed robbers and a resident who fired his gun claiming defense. Here, police say two brothers, just 15 and 17, attempt to rob a man watering his lawn who pulls out his own gun. The 15-year-old flees, the other suspects taking off but quickly crashing their getaway car. The 15-year-old, police say, would soon end up on Zach Cook's property, and Cook shot him.
The guy that shot the citizens at South Fulton, that's where we're at, in his backyard right now.
We got a black male that's down. He's talking, he's shot in the gut.
That teen is expected to survive, but for his actions, Cook was then charged with intent to kill.
Это чрезвычайно важно, скажу, может быть, вещь тривиальную, важно не для тех ребят, которые здесь вот покоятся на дне Финского залива, важно для нас, для будущих поколений, потому что все должны знать, Россия своих героев не забывает.
Now to the hunt for the bank robber being called the Pink Lady Bandit, striking for a fourth time in a robbery spree along the East Coast. ABC's Lana Zach has more on how police are trying to track her down.
This morning, authorities desperately searching for a serial bank robber who the FBI believes is behind 4 robberies in 3 states in just the past 8 days. During the heist, she's often seen wearing a baseball hat and carrying a pink handbag, leading the FBI to dub her the Pink Lady Bandit. The FBI says her East Coast spree started at a bank in Pennsylvania, then moved to another in Delaware 3 days later. And now they say she's robbed 2 banks in North Carolina. Officials say she begins each heist by handing the bank teller a note. The FBI is known to give serial bank robbers nicknames. In 2015, the Snowbird Bandit, a former LAPD detective accused of robbing several banks in California, his spree coming to an end, ultimately the former officer spending his retirement in prison.
Well, after decades of denial and secrecy and flat-out lying, America's defense establishment is finally admitting some of what it knows about UFOs. The Navy has admitted that its pilots encounter unidentified aircraft so often that they've had to draft new reporting guidelines to allow pilots to come forward. It's easy to find this funny, but it's also scary if you think about it. Our vast, well-funded defense establishment is seeing things in the sky they cannot account for, doing things they cannot understand. Should we be worried? Congressman Mark Walker is a Republican representing the state of North Carolina. He just sent a letter to the Secretary of the Navy, Richard Spencer, about the military's UFO investigations. We recently spoke to the congressman. Here's part of what he said. Should we be worried about this?
Well, we are concerned about it. As the ranking member of Terrorism and Counterintelligence, we have questions. It comes down to some of the new infrared radar systems that we're putting on some of our new jets are detecting some things out there. We call them unidentified aerial threats, and that's something that we're looking at. Our UAPs is what we call it. We want to know the information, and that's why it's important that we take a look at this.
Breaking news overnight.
Police in New York City are searching for the suspect or suspects who shot up a block party in Brooklyn. One person is dead, 11 injured. Social media video shows emergency responders treating people there at the scene.
And Mayor Bill de Blasio, who's running for president right now, weighing in on all of this. ABC's Zachary Quiche is on the scene this morning with the very latest. Zachary, good morning.
Whit, good morning to you. This Brooklyn park has become a crime scene. We've been seeing investigators and police really comb through and work this area all morning long. We're also told that a gun was actually found just over my shoulder here, just outside the park, after gunfire erupted at a block party.
There's at least 5 victims at this time. I think they just found another one.
This morning, a manhunt underway after a dozen people were shot at a Brooklyn playground overnight. One of them was killed.
Aviation Base, we got multiple people shot in the park. We need this area lit up as a playground.